Welcome everyone to Truth, Wellness, and Psychic Adventures. Get ready for unedited, unfiltered, and unbiased talks with Polly and Kristin, because life is unedited. Are you ready to experience your highest vibrational life, seek truth, and improve your overall wellness? You're in the right place. With tales of psychic experiences and expansive living, we are covering topics that bring the mystical into our everyday lives. Intrigued? Call us now at 1-800-930-2819. We are guiding callers toward their highest expression of self. You get not one, but two psychic life coaches. Your soul's sacred journey to truth is important to us. No question is too big or too small. Stay tuned. You're about to join in on a wild psychic ride. Truth, Wellness, and Psychic Adventures starts now. Good morning. Welcome to Truth, Wellness, and Psychic Adventures. I am Kristin. I'm here with my good friend, Polly.
Hello, Kristin and everybody. It's so good to be here. So much planning has gone into this and just getting the divine timing of everything working out. So excited.
Thank you, God. Yes. So to reiterate, give us a call, 1-800-930-2819. We are here for you. Give us any question, concern, or issue you have. We'll coach you through it.
Okay, what are we talking about today? Because you and I love to discuss and ponder and share.
We certainly do. And, we'll start in with the discussion of psychic. But we won't pigeonhole ourselves into staying on that topic only. But we'll start with let's define it. What do you think, let's put you on the spot here.
Okay.
What do you think it is to be psychic?
I love that question. And I will say, I work as a psychic, right? But I will say that most of us are a psychic, right? We just don't recognize it, because I believe that being psychic, it's not just getting a message from Aunt Dottie and Grandma Bertha from the other side, or it's not just...
I do love a good Aunt Dottie, though.
I don't know why that name came to me. Maybe a listener. And it's not just like being able to, it is feeling your way through life, but it's not just seeing, feeling, hearing, and knowing. It's also that manifesting, right? Intentional manifesting.
Yes.
It's miracles. It's also connecting to peace, right? Because how many times, I know you talk about this a lot, how many times do you feel that, to get that connection to peace in a trying time? Yes. So it's all of those things. It's hearing messages, but it's all of that. And so we all receive this differently, but it's being connected to the matrix, if you will.
I love that definition. That was all encompassing. Yeah.
That's because it is, right?
Yes, totally. My definition isn't that good. I'm going to go with yours. All I was going to say is it's acknowledging there's something bigger. There's something more than what we just see. So if I go through my day to day and I'm only here looking and listening to what is right in front of me, tangible, then I'm missing out on a whole nother realm, on a bunch of other sensory stimulations that I could be tapping into.
But think about if anybody has been in this world, not the collective world, but in the psychic world, you hear about people that channel, maybe they like Bashar, who channels ET, not ET, but you know what I mean?
Yes.
Right. So you hear, there are people that, supposedly channel Jesus. So there's channeling, there's just, being a medium, there's just so many different ways of connecting, of being a psychic. But Kristin, share with us a story, a psychic story, like one memory that you have, a psychic experience.
So when defining psychic, I always feel like empathy is a part of that. Like on the most basic level, if someone's like, oh, I'm not psychic, I don't know what that is. Just being empathetic and kind of feeling what someone else feels, or tapping in, picking up on their vibes. We all do that. You don't have to believe in anything woo-woo to understand that being an empath is just walking into a room and knowing oh, it's stress in here. Oh, it's heavy. You get that. Something bigger than that, I would say, way back in the day, Can you tell it's going to get deep the way I just did my voice way back in the day? I was a young little gal, and we went on, and I know I've told you this story before, Polly, but two parts to it. The first is the actual event that took place. I was on a canoe trip with my family and a bunch of their friends. In fact, it was my parents' square dancing club, if you will.
Perfect.
And
love it.
Mom and sister went up ahead in their canoe. Me and dad were in the canoe way back in the group. And we took a corner. There were some rapids. The canoe tipped. And we wore tennis shoes, not flip-flops, to protect ourselves from the rocks. My tennis shoelace got caught up in the bottom of the canoe, and it tipped to the side, filled with water, and down I went. And the canoe filled on top of me, and it was heavy. And I took a big breath of in, and I never choked. It was just very peaceful. I saw this huge bright light and immediately thought of my great grandma who had passed earlier that summer. And she was so smiley and just reached out to me and grabbed my hand and kind of pulled me toward her. But really, it was my dad pulling me up out of the water. And then everyone was completely silent. And I thought I would just been under for a moment. Turns out it was 5 to 10 minutes where nobody knew where I was. So at that point, I was like, wow, what is this? And why was I thinking so hard about it? I was a kid. So I just went on with life because you don't give it too much thought. And honestly, I knew that had happened, but I didn't dwell on it or contemplate it. And then you and I were talking once, and you said, hey, did you ever have a near-death experience? You're by water? And I lost it. I started crying, and I was like, oh my God, I did. And how it wasn't that I forgot about it. It was just that I had maybe put that on the back burner and hadn't really acknowledged that in a while. So interesting.
And it's so interesting because that's a story of a miracle. That's a story of somebody from the other side. That's a story of peace, right? Mm-hmm. It has all those elements, right? So being a psychic or living in that psychic experience or realm, if you will, mm-hmm. isn't just getting messages.
True.
Right?
It's true.
It's so much bigger than that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so true. And it's been, since then, I've always been fascinated with the other side. Mm-hmm. And it's like, but you know what? It's like any skill. Like if you want to get better at basketball, you play basketball with lots of people and you get a really good basketball coach to kind of show you the thing. Yeah. So Polly teaches a psychic development class, Zoom class. Anyone can join. More information on pollywirum.com for that psychic development class. But that is what has helped me truly tap into my, hone in on your skills, what you're really feeling comfortable connecting with and practicing it in a safe space.
And having the courage, right? Having the courage to look at the world differently, look at more possibilities, right? Because it does, it's like you get to this, we live our life, la, la, la. But at some point, you will need to step on the other side of the line into a different reality, or at least acknowledging a different reality. At some point,
yes,
you will have to be like, okay, I feel safe to think there's something different than my everyday life.
Completely. And spoiler alert, there is.
Yeah. But then here's the thing. Eventually your everyday life is that.
Yes. Ooh, yeah. Such a solid point. Yeah. It just grows subtly at first, and then it becomes that all encompassing.
Yes. But I do want to say this, even, if you're, this incredibly psychic person, you get messages from, Aunt Dottie and all of her friends or whatever. That doesn't mean Aunt Dottie, Grandma Dottie, whoever. It does not mean that you are not making mistakes. It doesn't mean that you're not sailing through this life and having to be like, oh, here's a lesson. It does not mean that. It doesn't mean that all of your answers come to you and there's no, right? I mean, Kristin, you know me, right? There's been big changes in my life in the past year or so. And are you kidding me? I mean, no, we still have to evolve, right? We can lean in, we can ask the questions, we can know that we're supported, we know that our team's with us, but it doesn't mean that we don't have to walk the path. It doesn't mean that we don't have to, that we're here on earth for a reason, right?
Totally. Yeah. And it's comforting to know, like when you have the support and the faith, it's comforting to know, guess what? We're going to have our trials and tribulations, but we can get through it. And we know that there's another side to it. Like I'll get through this. It's not going to be a cakewalk, but I'll get through it.
Yeah. Or maybe it will be.
I do love cake. Oh, but do you have a psychic story to share?
I do. And I love cake, but most of all, I love walks. But okay. Yes. Okay. So when I receive messages, just like all of us, we receive them differently. We all have our skill set. We all are going to have one or two ways that are better. Like, some people see things more, some people hear, some people feel. So for me, it takes me back. I was like 3 or 4. I was little and I was in my room. I believe it was a ramshackle room, but I'm not positive.
Just to paint a visual.
Very rural California, in my room and doing whatever a little kid does. And all of a sudden I started feeling like this pressure. Like it's just like say you walk into a walk-in refrigerator, those big refrigerators, obviously it's cold, right? Or you feel there's a whole sensation over your whole body. So when I was this little kid, it wasn't cold. It's just this pressure change. It's like being in a vault. It's just like you feel all of a sudden like there's just this pressure bumping up against you, but being surrounded by it. And it was just like, what's this? And it freaked me out. So I went and hid in I'm sure very ramshackle closet in the ramshackle room, but I went and hid in it. But the funny thing about that is many years later, after I started working as a psychic and working with spirit guides and all that stuff, it wasn't until then that I remembered that feeling and recognized for what it is. It's like when somebody from the other side is trying to talk to me, I feel it that way, right? It's like this shift. It's like this pressure. But as a little kid, I had no idea what it was, and it was scary. And so I think, if there's a message for anybody, it's to be aware that we all pick up things differently. And they have to see that they're going to try their hardest to get messages to you. Mm-hmm. It's up to us to pay attention. That's why, being aware of what's going on in your body, being aware of what's going on around you is so important. And eventually you'll come up with the way that you communicate with each other.
Absolutely. And I have been asked this question before from people who are new to connecting to the other side, new to acknowledging it. Why does it always happen when I'm scared in my room in the dark alone at night? My thought is that's when you've quieted your mind down. And that's when you're most receptive to these messages and this connection is you're typically lying there kind of drifting off. You finally let the engagement of the day drift away. So now you're primed for any kind of messages or communication. You're on that wavelength. And so they're like, oh, she's ready to connect. I better get in there, which I can remember being scared of that when I was little and doing the old trick of I'm under my blanket. It will protect me from everything. I'm sweaty and I just can't take my blanket off because it's my shield. I'm thinking like that.
But what's interesting what you're saying? So it's the word that you use, being scared. So I totally get like if you're in a room by yourself having that. But anytime that we are stressed, or if we want to use the word scared, that decreases our ability to receive, right? Because when you're stressed, you start closing down. And I will even say, this is kind of going a little bit deeper, if we take the idea of law of attraction, like we're attracting what we think about, and if somebody's kind of scared and they're trying to or thinking that somebody's making a connection with them, it might not feel as good, right? Totally. Because you might not be connecting with the highest vibrational energy out there, right? Because you might be somewhat, that scary feeling. But Okay, can I take a little swerve here?
I love a good side note. Yes.
Okay. So you know this about, how some people are like, and we get this a lot in the retreats, but like, how do I protect myself? Or even before people come on as a guest in the psychic class, how do I protect myself? So I do a meditation, I do a prayer every day. I, see myself filled with white light and surrounded by white light, but I'm not somebody that believes that there are, that you really need to be like, strap on the gun, not really, but the
Right.
energetic gun, right? Because there's like so many entities out there that are going to take advantage of you. I don't believe in that. I believe, here's my thought. If you do believe that, then you're right. Strap on your energetic gun.
Yes.
If you don't believe that, if you believe that you're only connecting with the highest vibrational beings, hallelujah, praise Jesus. That's what you're connecting with.
Yes.
And if ever something doesn't feel right, take a step back and say, I only connect with the highest vibrational beings.
That makes perfect sense to me. That's what feels good. And it's kind of like very bare bones, basic, elementary, like say what you want and who you're going to work with. Done.
Yeah, because it's similar to like if you walk into a bar, if I walk into a bar, it doesn't feel good to me.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of stuff hanging around there, not just the people drinking, but there's a lot of history. Right. And so we do have to be aware of what are we putting ourselves, what are we exposing ourselves to?
Yeah.
But if we're just doing la 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 meditating and then one day it feels like, oh, I don't like the way this, something's coming in. You just, you can imagine taking a step back and being like, I only work with the highest vibrational beings.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, so that was my side note.
Oh, I love a good side note. Well,
okay.
And another side note, 1-800-930-2819. If you have any ideas, any questions about psychic, what is it? Would you like a reading? How can we help you? Give us a call, 1-800-930-2819. We are here for you.
Absolutely. Okay. What crystals do you have near?
Okay. Ooh, I have my malachite from my friend April. She gave me this years ago, and it is a special little stone. So we, Polly and I, with our friends Teresa and Carolyn, went to the Tucson Gem Show. Is it Gem Fair? Gem Show?
I don't know.
Yeah, well, we went gemming.
Yeah, we sure did.
Which was an experience, I would say. Like it was very much the wholesale deal, all the gems you've ever wanted, and then some. There was rain, but that's okay. But yeah. I loved it. What is your favorite stone that you got?
I don't know. I do like this Herkimer diamond.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool. I don't know. I'm still like settling into them. Mm-hmm. I have to like settle into them.
Yeah.
I will just say that.
Yes.
Okay. So how can people use psychic stuff in their everyday life? Like, how does it enhance your life? Like, how does being a psychic enhance your life? Because it's not like we want to tune into the person in front of us in the grocery store, or, we don't want to, I guess here's my point. We don't want to be invasive.
Right. We don't want to be invasive, and I don't want to pick up someone else's crap.
You don't. And it's like, who really cares about what's going on with the person sitting on the airplane across the aisle?
Yeah.
I don't care. We don't care. So how can you use it to enhance your everyday life without being invasive?
Yeah. So I do, part of my meditation is a clearing, grounding, protective situation where I just feel very rooted into the earth with gratitude, clear everything that's been like fogging me, and then protect so that I don't take on anyone else's energy. And then sometimes we'll do, and I do this often if I don't drive on the freeway a ton, but when I do, I don't love it. So when I get on there, I'm always like, you know what? I would love to make this better for everyone. And you just start like sending happiness all around you. And I feel like that is a form of protection for me. Like, my car is going to be safe. I hope you have a great day and may all good things happen to you. And anytime someone does something like it's always traffic for me. If they let me in front of them when I'm trying to get over, I'm like, blessings to you. I just send you all the goodness ever. So I always try to just send goodness out, and then inevitably I'm human. So if someone does cut me off, sometimes my first instinct is not to send goodness. So I have to reel that back in, recognize it and then kind of reframe that.
Well, you live in LA, so LA traffic is a whole other thing.
Yeah.
Okay, here's what I like about it. I mean, that's a great example, but here's how I think it has helped me. Like whether I'm life coaching, whether I'm living my life or whatever, is you are able to tune in. Say you're going to have a meeting with somebody, or say you're just living life, walking through Whole Foods, and there's a showdown going on, something going on. You can tune in and just do the basic thing of how does this person move through life? Because as soon as you tune in and you ascertain how this person moves through life, that tells you how can I best communicate with them, right? It tells you so much stuff, but mostly we're communicating with each other, right? And even like if something is escalating, pause. How does this person move through life, right? Do they take everything as short, jagged? Do they take everything personally? Tune in. Feel that out. And that really gives you the information of how you can best communicate with them. Because honestly, that's what we do all day long, whether it's verbal communication or whether it's just the way I mean, seriously, whether like walking through a crowd, are you like elbowing your way through? Or are you doing it with ease and grace?
What I love about that question too, is it gives me like a little insight into them whenever I ask myself that question. Because this is a question Polly's thrown out in her psychic development classes that we'll contemplate on. Whenever I utilize that strategy and I ask myself that of someone, it softens my heart immediately to who they are and what they've been through. And I just, I don't know exactly their life history, but immediately I get a sense of like, okay, they've had their trials and tribulations, and just a little glimpse into maybe some feelings they have felt before. And it softens me immediately. And I almost feel motherly and patient and like, I want to connect with them in a way that like brings them joy, that makes their life a little bit easier.
Right. It's a totally non-judgmental. And I think that that's one of the things that's really important about being a psychic, or really in life in general, but
human.
It's not being judgmental, right? It's just being, this is what it is, but and being that awareness, because that's the point, is like you and I and everybody that we know have had these experiences where we could have acted differently.
Yes.
But for whatever reason, we didn't. And we all are carrying, again, I shouldn't say all, there could be some miracles out there, but most of us are carrying a few little elements of baggage that cause us to move through life a certain way.
Oh, agreed.
Right. And that's part of our life lesson, is like learning how to move through life with ease and grace. But anyhow, that's why I love doing that. Another thing that I remember when I had 1 million kids at the house, which is really 3, but I'll say it's 1 million.
But oftentimes it feels.
It did. And that was a bit ago. But I do remember, like, I could be out to dinner or whatever, because I don't like to cook, but I could be out to dinner. And if you practice, one of the big things about psychic is knowing what your energy feels like, so that you can feel what other people's energy feels like, or your spirit guides feel like, or the angels feel like. And so I could be out to dinner and I could kind of feel like, okay, this is my home. I could feel when the kids got back, right? So that's a great way to know all is well. They've come back. There's an argument in the entryway or whatever, but right, like, that they're there. And I remember using that a lot when the kids, because they were like teenagers, or some of them were, and that was helpful. So do you ever do that now, because you still have 3 kids under the roof?
Yes, I feel it more like when they come home, that's when I can take a breath. But also when they're at school, I need to know that they're okay. So I try to tune in to them and just feel what they're feeling and see how, because it's amazing. You can, when someone's wound up and stressed, you can feel that, and you don't have to be right beside them to feel it. And I think that's one of the things that blew my mind years ago is realizing, oh, I don't need to be right beside you to feel your energy, to know how you're feeling. It's obvious to me when you are beside me, because not only can I feel some stuff, but I can see it on your face and I can get some engagement, and it's very painfully obvious. But you can connect with someone's energy right here or over there or across the globe. And it's possible. I did a meditation once that was so awesome. Oh, you know who it was with? Jeffrey Allen. He is that energy worker that I think I sent you something of his the other day on social media. But he had this great idea, and I used it a little bit, and then I kind of built on it. You know, when you take like someone's meditation and make it your own time after time. So what I'll do, so I own a Pilates studio. And what I'll do to try to fill the classes, grow the studio, is I'll think about what I want, like all classes filled to capacity. And then I'll kind of lift my energetic presence out of myself. And in my mind, I'm like floating up over our city, and I'm calling into everyone else's higher self, like other energy bodies. And I'm connecting with everyone saying, hey, if you would benefit from Pilates, and it would be very easy for you to get there, and it could be a beautiful thing, let's connect. And I want you to find us somehow, referral, social media, stumble upon the studio. And I love that, because I feel like that's connecting with people just by energy bodies.
I love that also. And it's intentional, it's with love, and it's letting go of, it's not controlling, if you will, right? Because that's one of the big pieces about that. And I know we have to go to break in just a minute, but I love the idea of that. And one of my big things is affirmative prayer, which we'll talk about one day. But when we get back, I want to talk about how people, you know, because the word gift, like your greatest gift or whatever, right? That's used a lot, right? But we all have gifts. But let's talk about like how people can figure out like what is their greatest gift, if you will, or how do they best receive? And maybe it's not even about receiving. Maybe it's like they're just this incredible manifester. Like one of my kids just is, because she believes that whatever she wants, she's going to get. She's just like this incredible manifester. But she was raised that way. She was raised, you write down what you want in your life and you go for it. But let's talk about how you can determine what your greatest gift is, whether it's finding peace, whether it's manifesting, whether it's just, you know, connecting to the matrix and receiving, right? Like being a channel of the matrix, right? Whatever it is.
All beneficial, definitely.
All beneficial.
All good gifts. All right, we're going to break now. And then when we get back, we're talking gifts and psychic development at Truth, Wellness, and Psychic Adventures. Welcome back to Truth, Wellness, and Psychic Adventures. I am Kristin. I'm here with Polly. We are live. Call in. We've got you two psychics here to help out, give you a reading or whatever you need. Here's the number, 1-800-930-2819. Right before we went to break, we were talking about psychic gifts and some examples of that and what it takes to identify your own unique, blessed gift. I would say that it takes a little bit of being present and kind of experimenting with what do you like to do and would you really find that you're good at, that really gives you results. So you were saying your daughter is an excellent manifester.
Yeah.
And I got to give you props because that doesn't just come out of nowhere. Like mom has to give you some guidance on how do you manifest? What's the process? Don't overcomplicate it, but make it consistent. And so early on, you must have shown her that in some capacity, so she knew how to do it.
Yes, somehow. I mean, that is her gift. Without a doubt, that is her gift.
Would she say that too? Is she aware of it? Yeah. Okay.
100%. Like if there's ever something going on in her life, she's 23. Mm-hmm. She's 23. What year are we? Yeah, she's 23. Okay. If there's ever... You'll get there also.
Oh, I feel like I'm there. In my head, I was like, doing math, mom math.
Okay. If there's ever anything going on in her life and like getting a hire, being hired or whatever, or promotion, she always knows. She's always like, I don't have to worry about it. She has such faith in that, right? Which is lovely.
And you know what? That's very like catch-22-ish. Like she knows it's going to happen. So that feeds into the efficacy of it. And it just makes it stronger. Snowball effect. I love that for her.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so here's my take on finding your greatest gift. And I can just say, we didn't really talk about what we do when we started this show. So we probably do need to bring that in at some point, share more of who we are and what we are and why we can even say that we're psychics.
That's true.
But maybe we'll talk about that after this. We have to bring it in at some point. But what I will say in terms of like honing your gift or determining your gift, it's like similar to what Kristin said, like what comes naturally to you. But here's the thing. It's like, do you, like when you move through the life, and I'll just use the walking through Whole Foods again, are you somebody that hears things a lot? Are you somebody that, like when you walk into Whole Foods, do you feel it? Or are you more hearing things, or are you getting all these visuals, right? So pay attention to how all of that processes, or maybe your stuff comes to you in dreams, you have premonitions. Mm-hmm. So just pay attention to, in my mind, it's like what sticks out, what stands out. So when I work as a psychic, like in everyday life, like I do not pay attention to what's going on around me. I don't care, whatever, I live my life. But every once in a while, there'll be something that sticks out. It's almost like it's got a little gold line around it. And I'm like, that's interesting. Why do they want me to see that? And then I'll tune into it. And I'll give you a story about this. And this was before. So it was in my 40s that I had like a health challenge. My whole life just changed as I knew it, right? Like all of a sudden I could channel, I could do all this stuff. But before that, I used to have these crazy psychic adventures, if you will, but I just kind of dismissed them. Like I was always interested, but I dismissed them. It wasn't something that I like grabbed hold of and like, yes, this is my life path. So part of this story, but I was in nursing school. I was in Utah. I was going out for a moonlight hike at night with the moon. And it was I can't remember it's the Pleiades shower that happens in August. There's a meteorite shower. I can't remember. It happens every August. Okay. Anyhow, so we're going out hiking. I had this friend who's nutty like me, and we're like going out for this hike, and we pulled into this place completely desolate. There's no lights or anything.
Sounds super safe.
Oh yeah. Well,
the mom in me said that.
Yes. And believe me, I looked like a hippie. I was a hippie. I mean, I still kind of am a hippie, but I really looked like a hippie. I'm sure I had Tevas on. I'm sure that my hair was like a little ratty tatty. So, and then I was with Boris, who has dreadlocks. He's a violin maker, dreadlocks and everything. So we pull into this parking lot, and there's nobody there, but there's this truck over, and it's a big dirt gravel parking lot. And over on the side is this broken down white truck. I saw that and I paused, and then we carried on like, okay, we're going to start our hike. But we didn't get very far before we started hearing, help me, I've been shot. And I'll save the rest of that story for another time. But that's the piece. And there was one other thing. When we pulled into the parking lot, there was one car leaving. I noticed that. But it's a different noticing. It's like a noticing on steroids. And then the truck over in the corner, again, a noticing on steroids. It's like that moment it's like more of a connection and a pause. Mm-hmm. And then you carry on. And I still do that. Like if I'm somewhere, say it's at a psychic fair. I haven't done one of those for a while, but say it's at a psychic fair. And I remember one in particular, there was some guy making the rounds to all the tables. And I remember kind of looking at him, tuning in and being like, oh yeah, I'm closing shop. I'm going to take a little break. Right. So it's like you make a connection And it's like, I guess the best way to say it is it's like you see it, for me, it's like you see it, but it's like somebody draws a gold line around it. And you know that there's something there, tune in, and what is it?
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It does. And but it all starts, like you said, with a baseline. Like, how do you roll? Like, what is your normal? How do you normally notice something? That way, when it kicks up a notch, you're aware of, oh, this is different. So different than what? You got to know what your normal is. And then kind of to build on that, you have to be aware. And there's so many distractions now. And I know the mom in me is going to be like, these cell phones, but I will say that it's so easy to be distracted. Like, you're on your phone, you're looking at something, you're, busy in your mind somewhere else, and you're not completely open to receiving messages or just being observant. Or, I forever am watching, at school pickup, I'm watching kids on their phones, like crossing the street, or just not in the moment of an obvious, I should be in the moment, which this isn't quite as obvious. You're with a buddy on a hike, and you want to be aware, but being really aware kind of gives you insight into, I can't wait to hear how this story ends.
Well, and that's kind of okay. And here's going back to what I said earlier, when you are psychic, and that was like before I was doing what I do now. Mm-hmm. But when you are psychic and you make your living by being a psychic, it does not mean that you're not going to have these experiences of like, holy heck, what have I gotten myself into?
Yeah.
Because that's part of evolution. And
that's part of life. And you're still a human. You've got this other like connection that you've honed in on, and you're building those skills, but you're still rolling through this human experience.
Yeah, it is. And here's the other thing is, I really believe, like, to enhance your psychic abilities, to enhance maybe it's your manifesting abilities. Maybe that's right. Like, enhancing your ability to connect with the matrix, however you want to do that, become part of a group, right? Or at least have that one friend that when you have these miracles, if you will, or these coincidences, or you talk to your angels or whatever it is, have at least one person that you can share this information with, because the more you can share it, and it makes it real. Because if you have these situations and you can only share it with your beloved baby dog, it doesn't ground it into your life. And then when you're in those scary moments, when you're saying you're trying to sleep at night and the room feels scary, that's when you're like, well, no, I just made it up. Yeah.
Because you want it to be like that at that point, probably.
Yeah. Or whatever. Like, right. Because when you first start doing this, there are going to be, your life changes. But when you first start doing it, there are going to be people out there that think that perhaps you're nutty.
Oh, completely. You know what? This is a good segue into who we are and what we do. So I will say that what Polly just said kind of speaks into the different phases that we are in our life. My kids are a bit younger than Polly's kids. Polly teases me that I have not come out of the psychic closet, and I have not. This is something that I do. My close friends and family know that this is my jam, and I will assist Polly on some really awesome spiritual and psychic development retreats that we'll talk about. But I haven't completely, I don't show up at the PTA meeting and ask if anybody needs a reading. I know, you're like, you don't do that? No, I do not. Which, when Polly
Can you imagine? Wait, stop. Can you imagine? I was on the PTA board for several years. Can you imagine pulling up a chair with your tarot cards?
Oh yeah, like maybe your crystal ball. You know what's funny is just yesterday we had someone stop by Garage Pilates and ask for a donation to their big auction. And how funny would it be if I was like, well, we're not going to do just Pilates this year. We'd like to also donate some psychic readings and a ticket to win one free pass to a psychic development retreat. Would you like that? You know, maybe I'll reach back out and see if she wants that.
I think you should. And look, that's the thing. Okay, I have to say this is it'll meet people. It'll find the people that are ready. It finds the people that are ready. Yes, absolutely.
Yes. And, like you were saying, find at least one person that you can talk about this with, because they're like anything. There's strength in numbers. So if you have just a little posse of people that you can bounce this off with, it does make it more real. It does help it grow, and it validates it and assists them as well, because we're all going through it. And when you have that safe space and someone who can support you and like enjoys chit-chatting about it because it's different and fun, then it only gets better from there.
Right. And on that point, and then we have to go back about your healing, right? Because you're a great healer. But on that point, why do people get psychic readings? They get the readings because it feels good, right?
Yes.
If you're getting a reading for somebody who has some talent and connecting to high vibrations, it feels good. You get validation, right? Yes. Or you get messages of some sort, but you still have to do the work. But it feels good. So if you have your community, look how long my hands look. If you have your community, then you feel good, right? Because you're in that energy.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about your healing.
Yes. So I am by trade a Pilates instructor. Garagepilates.net is my website. You can find me on Instagram at Garage Pilates, all one word. I do Reiki energy healing. And really, when I work with someone, I'm a life coach as well, we'll kind of do the full gamut of what's going on physically, emotionally, spiritually. And I love to talk people through any goals or hiccups they're having in their life and use a lot of energy work with that and actually bring in some physical components as well. So lots of like stretching and nothing too crazy, but definitely some movement, I think, is involved in spiritual growth as well.
Yes. But I remember one time you were like building a reformer or cleaning a reformer or whatever, and there's somebody doing a private next to you. And the person was like saying, I don't know why my hips are so stuck or whatever. And you weren't like getting involved. You were cleaning, working, whatever. And you heard the reason why. I can't remember what it was, but that's exactly it. That's how this stuff works. And so if she had been your client, you could have been like, well, let's review back to this time and let's maybe make this shift in your physical world and see how it affects your hips.
Exactly. And that's a good example of, I was just putting new springs on the reformers underneath, and a client was being trained next to me with another instructor, the complaint about the hips. And in my mind, I knew there was trauma, and I could even tell you the age. And I just quietly put on another red spring and minded my own business.
But that's it. And that's why, and I do appreciate what you were saying about the movement aspect, because so much of what we take on, it settles into our body. It settles into our mind. It settles into the way we move through the world, which is why being aware of how we move through the world, being, consciously moving our body. And sometimes it's just getting a good massage. I mean, people have limitations. That's okay. There's still ways to move the body, getting through all the joints and everything.
Yes. So, get stuff moving, no stagnant anything. Yeah. There's ways to do it. Even if it has to be passive, it can happen. And with breath is another great one. Totally. Yes. Yeah. A lot of breath work. That's always good.
Yeah. I'm not into it, but
it's beneficial to some people.
I do know that it's, well, but look at it. Okay. I will say I do the breath work when I'm outside on the trail.
Yes.
Right. But I'm not into is it Hoffmeyer or whatever?
The Hoffs. Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, one of my kids loves that. Right.
Some people do.
It's uncomfortable for me. That's a little piece of my baggage. But put me out on a trail and let me trot and let me move energy and breathe that way. That's like hallelujah, praise Jesus.
Yes, everyone's got their thing for sure.
Everybody's got their thing. Okay, so
how can we work with you?
Yes. Yeah, since we passed this up in the introduction, which we should have done. So I am a psychic and a life coach, and I always had the abilities, but didn't really use them. Didn't really know what the heck they were. I know when I was like really young, I know I could talk, and I would tell my mom things that were going to happen. So I know I had the abilities. It's so funny.
Did that freak her out? Like how did she receive that?
I don't think so. I think it was just like, ho hum, And then I became like the loose cannon of the family.
I love that. I love that for you.
Later on in life, I became the loose cannon. I mean, I think they still see me as that. I'm sure they do. So no, I don't think I freaked her out. But the thing is so anyhow, so I work as a coach. I work as a life coach and an intuitive. I like to do it more intuitive life coaching. I love helping people if they have like some major thing, like some transition. You know what? If they just want their life easier, but if they're willing to do the work, and okay, can I also say this? I'm not in love with the word work. But if they're willing to believe in themselves, to see that it's possible to have an easier life, if they're willing to make some choices, you can always choose again. You can try something and be like, no, this is not for me. Okay.
That is life. I love that you said that, because I think people are so scared to commit, to do it wrong, that they have missed out on the idea of this is part of the journey. That's the great thing about it. Like, the road is endless and all the branches. Like, this is what we're supposed to do.
Yes. I used to, so I've been doing this now for almost 15 years. I used to do, I'd love to make predictions. I still do. Like, I will do a prediction for the upcoming election. I did one for the last election.
You were correct on the last one. I
know what's going to happen in the next one. I also know what's going to happen during I'll say 2 years into it. We'll give it like 2 years into it.
Do you see you and I ever running together and taking office?
Oh my God, we should. But let's clarify what office.
Right. Notice I wasn't specific.
Right.
There's so many offices that need filled.
Maybe we're making our own little branch, own little branch. Okay, so I used to be more into prediction. Oh my God. And I chant, like, that was another thing. Like, I still like to channel, but the channeling stuff, when I first had like this breakthrough in my early 40s, it was being able to channel, like being able to connect and having those channel messages. And I still do that. And it's actually one of the things I love the most, is to be able to share that energy of peace.
Yes.
I love sharing predictions, if you will, but I think more importantly than that is to open up the doorway for people to believe in themselves and to create the life they want. Because here's the thing, there are so many different realms of possibilities, right? There's limitless possibilities. And I could say to Kristin, you have this amazing opportunity to become president of the United States. But if Kristin chooses not to do the work, or Kristin decides, that's not for me, right? Something else is going to unfold for her. But anyhow, I guess I went through this little thing about, how much do I want to put out there and have people start living their life around that, if you will.
Yeah.
And I told you this, that one of my children said to me, which is so funny, said to me not that long ago. Now I can't remember the exact words, but oh God, what were that child? I'm not going to say the gender of that child, because then it would be obvious, but it was something like, it was something about like you're like causing things to happen, or like, but it was regarding people, like people that I do readings for, right? And I was like, wow, that's a very powerful thing to say, but it's not true.
Well, I love that your child thought you were that powerful. I wish my children would recognize my power.
Yeah, well, give them time.
I do want to say that your pollywirum.com, your newsletter, and this is a full confessional. When I get it, I go straight to the channeled message portion, because I love your channeled messages so much. And then I'll go back and I'll read all the good stuff too, but I scroll straight down to that thing.
I love doing that, right? Because that's what I love to connect. I love doing readings, but I love connecting to other realms and really getting the answers of like, how can we be here with more grace? How can we move through this world with more ease and grace? How can we be compassionate? But in the same sense, how does that fit in our life so that it feels comfortable? Because how many people feel comfortable in their lives?
Right. And we don't know, because some people are very obvious, like, I'm uncomfortable, I need help. And those are the people that typically go to coaches and seek guidance.
Yeah.
And some just suffer in silence.
Okay. Yeah, stop that if that's one of you. Stop it. But let's pull a card. Let's each pull a card for the energy of the week. And just on a little side note, so this is, it's almost Valentine's Day 2024. So if you hear this days, weeks, months, years later than February 2024, know that there'll be some aspect of the message that can relate to your life, even if it's just like a pondering, like, oh, did I need to hear this? Right?
Yeah. I always feel like it finds you when you need it.
Absolutely, 100%. So
did you have a card jump out?
No, I had a pen that fell on the floor.
Oh, that's not as exciting.
My pens are kind of like my security blanket.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why, friend. As are my sticky notes that I write so much stuff down. Okay, do you have a card?
I'm getting it. So there's one that jumped out, and I love it when they jump out. But I also get a little nervous and need to make sure that it is accurate. This one jumped out so aggressively that I think we have to go with it.
Oh my God, I love this. Oh, what did you get? Oh, that's a good one. I love that.
Yeah. So this, to me, this is more like, it's the shadow, it's fear, but it's more like face your fear. It's a little bit more because it is so, here's my take on this. It's so in your face. Like, this isn't a subtle card that something's kind of a little less obvious in the background. I think this is very much in your face, the shadow, fear, and it's about facing your fear and becoming very clear on what exactly is your fear and why, almost doing a deep dive and kind of talking yourself not out of your fear, but being very rational about it. Like, what is my fear? Why? What is the worst thing that can happen? And is this even relevant? And what can I do about it? Seeking out some help too feels like a good idea, but definitely facing your fear head on.
I love it. And you know what I'm getting with that card also is don't build it into something. Like, they're showing me how people construct things out of their fear. Don't build. Don't let it grow into something.
Break it down. The exact opposite. Demolition, if you will.
Just explode it. Okay. I love this card. It's the Fool. Whoop. It's the Fool. I love the freedom of the card. I love the merriment of the card, if you will. I will. So if you will. So this week, notice where you feel free. And it feels like for some people, the sense of freedom might even give you a sense of unease, even because you feel a little bit imbalanced, because all of a sudden some of the structures that you had in place, or the people, or the things that you were like, this is true, this I know, are not there.
Okay.
Right? There could be a disappearance of some of these things that you have relied on. I know we've got 1 minute, but really embrace your freedom. So if you start noticing that there are some things being removed from your life, let go and embrace your _ability to choose again. Embrace your freedom.
Absolutely. All right. To connect with us further, Instagram at @Polly_Wirum, at Garage Pilates, at truth.wellness.psychic. Follow along. And then Polly's website is pollywirum.com. She's got great info on our spiritual retreat coming up in April. Great info on joining the psychic development classes. You can find me at garagepilates.net. And we are here every second and fourth Tuesday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
And you can reach out to us on Instagram if you want to leave a message about a content, questions, comments, whatever, or through our websites. We're always available.
Always available. Thank you guys so much for joining us on Truth, Wellness, and Psychic Adventures. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thanks for calling into Truth, Wellness, and Psychic Adventures. We are psychic life coaches, Polly and Kristin, taking your calls at 1-800-930-2819 every second and fourth Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific on transformationtalkradio.com. To work with us individually, visit pollywirum.com and garagepilates.net. Follow us on Instagram at truth.wellness.psychic and at Polly_Wirum and at Garage Pilates. We can't wait to share the next episode with you.